Is zone 2 cardio the best form of cardio? And is it something you should be implementing into your routine? Now, first and foremost, you want to start with resistance training. Always start with resistance training, and then you can build cardio from there. Now, for a long time, people were just doing interval training, and I still think that's an effective tool to build VO2 max, to create this anaerobic environment. But for aerobic capacity, is zone 2 worth it? Now, I'm going to go into what zone 2 cardio is, how it compares to some other forms of exercises, how much you should be doing per week, and is this something that's worth doing over other forms of exercise? Now, what zone cardio 2 is it's a sub-maximal aerobic training. I'm going to teach you how to figure out what that is for you, because it's a little bit different for everybody. And essentially, zone 2 could mean a lot of different things in different contexts. Elite athletes can, use precise, expensive tools to ensure that they're in zone 2, and they strive to improve zone 2 fitness to improve their overall maximum performance when they go and into meets or into races. Regular people can use zone 2 just to improve their overall health. And examples of zone 2 could be cycling, using the elliptical machine, hiking or walking upstairs, slow jogging on a flat terrain, rowing. How does zone 2 compare to other cardiovascular zones? I'm going to pull up a chart real quick if you're watching on YouTube. Here you go. I thought this chart does a great job of showing you each zone and what it entails. And this I brought up from Precision Nutrition, where I got one of my certifications. And zone 1, as you see, is less than 60% of your maximum heart rate. Zone 2 is 60 to 70%, and so on and so forth, all the way to zone 5. Now, you have anything from zone 1, which would be a light walking, and zone 2, which is almost like a light jog or a hike. Then you got zone 3, which is more of like a jog. And as you go up in the zones, you're changing your energy source. You're going from using fat for fuel to using carbs as fuel, all the way up to like a maximal sprint, which is zone 5. Now, I like to think of these zones as zone 1 is the bottom of this cardiovascular pyramid, and it's the base. So if you think of it as a pyramid, zone 1 and zone 2 should be done as the aerobic base. And as you go up, zone 5 would be the tip of the, let's say, cardio pyramid that should be done every so often, maybe every 10 days, let's say. And then from there, you're building your base from zone 1 and zone 2. And so these are just different ways. Obviously, with your sprinting, you're going to improve VO2 max, heart rate max, and fitness at maximal levels. Okay, so that quick sprinting. And then zone 2, as it shows, improves this aerobic base without impeding recovery, which I think is the big thing when it comes to zone 2. Why zone 2 cardio called this fat burning mode? Well, first and foremost, zone 2 is a form of aerobic exercise. Aerobic means with oxygen. That means the body needs oxygen in order to produce ATP, which is our primary source of energy. Now, anaerobic is like sprinting, intense cycling, or heavy weightlifting. This does not require oxygen in order to produce ATP needed to refuel it. So if you think of like anaerobic exercises, use readily available sources of energy, primarily carbohydrates stored in the muscles and liver, and accessed rapidly but run out very quickly. And that's for anaerobic. Aerobic taps into an energy reserve that gradually and primarily burns body fat for fuel. And this process is slower, but the energy reserve is used much longer. That is why like going for a walk or a light jog on a treadmill may be called zone 2 cardio, because you're sort of in this fat burning mode. You're using fat for fuel and you're using this steady, moderately paced aerobic work. Now, Dr. Peter Attia has been known to talk a lot about zone 2 cardio. And essentially, I think it should be a piece to the puzzle. I definitely don't think it's the only thing. But I will say some of the benefits to zone 2 cardio are, one, it builds this aerobic base that I talked about, which helps you train for any type of event that you're doing. Even sprinters and long distance runners will use this as their base and then focus on their specialty, whether it's sprinting or going on an extremely long run or race. Zone 2 cardio is almost like the building blocks for your aerobic capacity. Two, what I love about like a zone 2 or even a zone 1 is that you can bounce back right away. Like instead of doing high intensity interval training every other day, where you're just somewhat cached and you're not recovering well enough. Zone 2, you can recover in between sessions and come back just as strong, and I think that's important. Benefit number 3 is it boosts mitochondrial health. Now, Zone 2 cardio might be the most effective form of exercise when it comes to maximizing mitochondrial health, but all physical activity can improve and support mitochondrial health. So it's important to just get out and do something. Now, how do you know if you're in zone 2 is the big question. I think a simple way of looking at it is to take 220 less your age. So let's just say you're 42 years old. So 220 less 42 is 178 beats per minute is your max heart rate. From there, zone 2, when we looked at the diagram, it's about between 60 and 70% of your max heart rate. So that's between about 178 times 0.6 and times 0.7, you get this range of about 125 to 107 beats per minute. That puts you in zone 2. Another common way of doing it is, I've talked about this before with Brad Kearns, 180 less your age, sort of gives you that top end range for zone 2. And so there's a couple ways you could do it. Now, number 3 is just simple body awareness. Being able to breathe through your nose and hold a conversation, then you're most likely in zone 2. If you can pay attention to a podcast or a movie or have a thoughtful conversation, this is all sort of a form of cardio that is in the zone 1, zone 2 area. Now, how much do you do per week? I would say for myself, I go on 3 30-minute walks per day with my dogs. I would say I'm probably between zone 1 and zone 2. So for me, that's what works. And I think when it comes to zone 2 cardio or any type of cardio, do what fits in your schedule. And if you need to start at 45 minutes per week, I think that's a great place to start. Also factor in your goals. Obviously, if you want to just build muscle and strength, really focus on resistance training, and maybe cardio might take a back seat. But I think that if you want to build a nice aerobic base, and perhaps you're training for a marathon or some other type of race, having this zone 2 cardio aerobic base is a great place to start. If you're someone who really, really hates cardio, which I'm not a huge fan of, I will say that, find a leisurely activity that you could do and you're not even really thinking about, running on a treadmill or going on an elliptical. This could be frisbee, pickleball, obviously has become big. I think if you can incorporate this, something that's fun that you can do on a consistent basis, I think that's most important. I think the most important thing when it comes to your aerobic capacity and building a good aerobic base is to make it work with your schedule. If that means that, you can walk or bike to work, go ahead. That means you got to get up maybe a slightly earlier and go for a 20-minute walk and just build on that. I think that's a great place to start. If you really want to hone in on zone 2 cardio, you're probably going to want to get a heart rate monitor just to see where you're at. But I gave you sort of a easy way to calculate where you should land and just focus on that. I think a couple 45-minute sessions per week would be great if you have the time. If not, make it work with your schedule and try to have fun with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be walking. It could be rowing, swimming, or anything that you find that gets the heart rate up, but it allows you to carry conversation and not be overly strained within the activity. So, that's what I want to touch on today. Like anything else, I said start slow and build from there, and you'll have a nice aerobic base to build from. And then if you want to sort of sprinkle in some high intensity interval training, you can do that maybe every 7 to 10 days. So
if you want my step-by-step blueprint on how to get your body back to what it once was 10 to 15 years ago without rearranging your life, click the first link below. If you enjoyed this content, YouTube thinks you'll like this next video.